Over 60 restaurants and cafés across Sydney, Canberra and Perth are breaking the law.
I think we've all seen things from time to time where we sort of sit there and go, interesting.
In May 2009, the Trade Practices Act was amended to make restaurants incorporate weekend surcharges into final meal prices. From May 17 to June 6 this year, Reportage and Radio Atticus conducted a 3-week investigation and found that many restaurants are using an asterisk at the bottom of menus to notify consumers of extra surcharges. But this is illegal.
We want to have prices clearly visible, transparent, so that I can compare one with another and decide where the best value lies.
According to Section 53C of the Act, on days that the surcharge applies, the restaurant is required to provide patrons with a menu that states the price of food and beverages, inclusive of the percentage surcharge. Chris Zinn is from consumer advocacy group Choice. He says the law ensures customers are fully aware of the prices they are paying.
This component pricing issue has nothing to do with the rights and wrongs of weekend surcharging, but everything to do about how you implement the law. And the ACCC seems unambiguous about this, is to say no asterisks, no small print, you've got to have a separate menu with the prices clearly spelt out.
The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, the ACCC, is the national body that enforces consumer protection laws, like Section 53C. Michael Shaper is Deputy Chairman of the ACCC and says that his staff are cracking down on restaurants.
The ACCC is serious about the law. Interestingly enough, we've recently had a look at compliance within the restaurant and catering sector within particular cities, and our evidence to date indicates that it is actually not a big issue for most industry participants. Something like 3/4 of restaurants that we've surveyed in Canberra, for example, are compliant with the new laws.
Half an hour after the interview with Shaper on June 3rd, 2SER and Reportage journalists found 5 restaurants in Canberra's CBD which failed to comply with the law. One restaurant, Tossolini's, had a 20% surcharge on public holidays with no second menu. This is the highest weekend surcharge we found during the investigation. Back in Sydney, Jeremy Sloss is the manager of the Waterfront Grill in Darling Harbour. He says the restaurant didn't get any notification of the law change last year.
I had a customer dining in our restaurant who said that you're no longer allowed to charge a 10% surcharge. It has to be same price out the front and same price in the menus on a on a Sunday and a public holiday. And we never had any emails or any information sent from ACCC and Restaurant Catering Association.
But the CEO of the Restaurant and Catering Association of Australia, John Hart, says it's not the group's responsibility to enforce the ACCC's laws.
We're not charged with enforcing the ACCC's legislation. That's for the ACCC to do. All we can do is pass information to businesses and suggest that that's the way they do their thing. We're not a government agency, we're not an enforcement body. We provide advice to business, and that's exactly what we'll be doing.
According to the Trade Practices Act, if restaurant owners don't comply with Section 53C by incorporating surcharges into prices, they could face criminal punishment.
These provisions are criminal provisions, which means that there is the possibility of criminal prosecution and criminal fines. But I don't think this is something that would necessarily automatically lead to a criminal prosecution. But certainly there is the potential for that, and it is an area that really all restaurants and other businesses in the hospitality trade do need to be aware of.
We don't foreshadow what we're going to do in respect of a particular case or a matter, but I would point out very clearly that the Commission, in its own internal operations and also by way of its reputation, is very strongly committed to the idea of proportionality. What is the nature of the breach? Has it been deliberate? Has it been accidental? Has it been one that's had a widespread consumer detriment, or has it only been a relatively incidental manner? How well is that business willing to work with us if a breach is identified to correct it? We take all of these things into account when we're dealing with an issue. So, as I said before, it's not necessarily a sledgehammer trying to crack a walnut.
While Shaper says the ACCC will be fairly lenient with restaurants who have not complied, John Hart says the Commission shouldn't pass laws they are not willing to enforce.
The ACCC's approach to enforcement is to pick up on a few high-profile businesses that they can then promote, and those high-profile businesses will be used to demonstrate the teeth that they have. To my mind, that is not good enforcement, it is not good practice, and if there are to be changes like this that impact on a large number of businesses, there should be the commitment to enforcement that they promise there is. It's disappointing.
So on paper, failing to incorporate surcharges into menu prices has some hefty consequences. But according to the ACCC, they want to educate owners rather than imprison them. Amanda Ho, Reportage Online. This investigation was conducted by Reportage and Radio Atticus between May 17 and June 6, 2010. Any businesses named as not complying with Section 53C of the Trade Practices Act was correct during this period. Reportage and Radio Atticus are aware that since the investigation ended, some restaurants and cafes have now changed their policies.